the previous video, I hit a deer with my RAV4 in Canada, totaled the RAV4, and so in this video, we're going to talk about the potential candidates for replacing the RAV4. And I'm gonna put an orange hat on because it is the height of hunting season, and I don't want to be mistaken for an elk. It's a beautiful fall day here in the Uinta Mountains of northeastern Utah. And the plan for this video is for us to just walk and talk about the various SUV options that I'm considering. There are 3 that I'm primarily considering. And so we're gonna go over those. We're gonna talk about what I'm not considering, both SUVs and then also non-SUVs, like why I'm no longer considering a van, why a truck doesn't really interest me. We're gonna go over all of that. Basically, we're gonna be geeking out about SUVs and SUV camping for probably quite a while as we walk and talk here. At the end of this video, I will answer frequently asked questions from the previous video, so stay tuned for that if that interests you. As far as these 3 SUVs go, I'm looking to actively buy one of these. If you have one and you're willing to sell it and it meets all of my criteria, go ahead and shoot me an email. Use the contact form on suvrving.com. I think that's just suvrving.com/contact. If you're anywhere in the Mountain West states, so I live in Wyoming, if you are in Colorado, Utah, Idaho, Montana, even like if you're in Nevada, Las Vegas area, I can go to all of these places if it's a good deal, if it'll work out for both of us. So let's set some background here. This will be the 3rd SUV that we have in the family. My wife Cassie has a 2002 Toyota Highlander. I still have the Toyota Land Cruiser. In the previous video, I got asked a lot of questions about what about the Land Cruiser? What happened to the Land Cruiser? Although a lot of you guys also said what happened to the 4Runner and what happened to the Land Rover. I've never owned a Land Rover or a 4Runner. I'm pretty sure you're thinking of the Land Cruiser. It's a fantastic car. We're keeping it. The plan has always been for us to have 3 cars so that Cassie can have one while I'm on my trips. And then for the other 2, it's really good for me to have a backup. It's happened several times throughout the years where I need to go on a trip and one of my cars is out of action for whatever reason, or like this most recent trip, for example, my RAV4 died. I came home, I was home for a day, then I was able to head back out like the day later, or a day later in the Land Cruiser and continue on with that trip. And you are gonna see those videos coming up after this one in the future. A couple years ago, I was heading down to Arizona for a month in the Yukon that I had, the GMC Yukon, and the transmission exploded on that. And so I eventually made my way back home and got the RAV4 and was able to go continue on that trip. When you make your living traveling in and talking about SUVs and camping in them, it is extremely beneficial to have 2 at my disposal, 3 total in our family. But again, like for me, it's really nice to have 2, especially when those 2 are at very different ends of the SUV spectrum. My Land Cruiser is big, super off-road capable, gets terrible gas mileage. And so it's really nice to have a small, not so off-road capable, but more economically minded as far as fuel efficiency goes. It's really nice to have both ends of the spectrum so that I can show both ends of the spectrum to you guys. Some of you guys in the comments for the previous video wanted us to sell Cassie's Highlander for some reason. We're not going to sell her car. We're going to keep that. It's a good car. We've had it for a while. It has 140 something thousand miles on it. It's not worth much. And so it doesn't really make sense to sell that and then buy something else. It's long since paid for. And so, we're going to keep that car until it dies, basically. And so why a small SUV? Well, in the previous video, I was considering a van. I was talking about getting an adventure motorcycle too. I wasn't really clear exactly on what I wanted, but the more I've thought about it and the more feedback I've gotten from you guys, I'm like 95% sure that I'm gonna get a small SUV. The name of the channel is, after all, SUV RVing. I think that at some point in the future, Cassie and I probably will get a van, so I guess prepare yourselves for that, but that'll probably be at least a couple years away, and that'll be when we have more time to travel together. We're both busy in our own ways. Cassie is going to school right now full-time. She's taking classes online. So, you know, with that and all the other things we have going on, it's not the best time for us to do a lot of long-term traveling together. So if I'm just by myself, then a small SUV also, again, makes sense. And then again, I probably will get an adventure motorcycle at some point, but that won't feature super heavily on the channel, so you guys don't have to worry too much about that. And so continuing on with setting the ground rules here for these 3 SUVs that I have in mind. Our budget is like $11,000 to $16,000. We're gonna be paying for this in cash. We could go higher if we really needed to, but I don't think we do really need to. So I think we actually wanna be at the lower end of that pricing spectrum. And then I want basically as low miles as I can get because I drive a lot, right? And that's another reason I want another vehicle. When I have 2 cars, 2 SUVs at my disposal, I can break up the mileage between my cars so that I'm not putting, you know, 30 or 40,000 miles a year on one car. That's a lot. And so I'm definitely looking at something under 100,000 miles, probably in like the 50 to 80,000 mile range is where we're at, given the budget. Clean title, I know you can get really good deals on like hail damaged cars or rebuilt cars. I don't think we're super interested in that. I suppose if the right deal came along, then maybe, but that's not really what we're focusing on. And finally, before we get into the first vehicle that I'm considering, there will be a poll. So you guys can give me your feedback between these 3 SUVs on what I should get. By the time this video goes live, there will be a new poll in the, I think it's called the posts section or the community section of my channel. I'll put a link to that. It'll be pinned as the top comment on this video. I'll also link it in the video description so you can cast your vote and give your 2 cents on what I should get. And so vehicle number 1 is, drum roll, another RAV4. Now I said at the end of the previous video that I was not interested in getting another RAV4 just because, you know, been there, done that. I wanted something different. But a couple things have changed my mind. First of all, Cassie thinks that I should get a RAV4 because it was such a good car for me. Second, a lot of you guys in the comments and the other polls that I've done, again on the channel and on Instagram, have wanted me to get a RAV4. And you know, I didn't want to get one because I didn't really have much more to say or do with a RAV4. I thought it would just be more interesting for me if I had a different vehicle. But I think that if I did get another RAV4, and I'm looking at probably from 2006 onward. 2006 was the start of the generation of RAV4 that I had. My generation went from 2006 to 2012. Mine was a 2011. And so anything from 2006 onward, so that includes the generation that I had, but also the generation that has come after, I'm open to one of those. And so I think that to make it more interesting for myself, I would pretty heavily customize it. I would put a lift on it. I would get bigger tires. I would get, you know, body armor underneath, like a skid plate and that sort of thing. I would do a lot of customization on it just because I think that would be fun, and because I didn't do that at all for my other RAV4. My other RAV4 was bone stock, and that's great. I think that's something that a lot of people can relate to because, you know, they're probably not going to be modifying their vehicles, but it is interesting to see what can be done with what is on the market. And so that's what I'm thinking. And then also my RAV4 was a 4-cylinder and it had 4-wheel drive. I think some of you in the comments on the last video thought that my RAV4 didn't have 4-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. It did, it had 4-wheel drive. A lot of the ones in my generation of RAV4 did. And so I'm kind of interested in getting one with all-wheel drive because I haven't experienced that, and a 6-cylinder versus the 4 that my previous RAV4 was. Ideally, like those are kind of small things. Again, if the price is right and the miles are low, I don't really care about what else is going on. It needs to be either all-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive. Don't really care about which one it is, although it would just kind of be more interesting if I had something different again. Another benefit of the RAV4, if I get the same generation that I had before, is that I have a lot of stuff for it already. I kept the rubberized waterproof floor mats. I kept the window coverings, and so I could, you know, move in pretty quickly. Although again, that kind of means that I wouldn't have as much content to make. So pros and cons, but I think that's about all I have to say for the RAV4. Let's move on to vehicle number 2, and that is a Subaru Forester. I'm thinking specifically 2016 onward, and I know that's very specific, but I've done a lot of research about Foresters. Some years are better than others, like with a lot of cars, you know, it's not uncommon. And so I think I want a 2016 onward, not 2015, not 2014. I know you guys are gonna, you know, write down below and say, I have a 2014 and it's great, you know, haven't had any problems, that's fine. But I'm interested in a 2016 onward, and again, with low miles. So right now on the market, I've seen some that are like a 2016 with around 70 to 80,000 miles for like $11,000 or $12,000. And I think that's pretty reasonable. I think that's probably where I would be. The Forester interests me primarily because it is something different. I think it's valuable for me to have experience with multiple SUVs. I know you guys like the RAV4, I know I like the RAV4, but it is valuable just from a content standpoint, from just being more informed on my part. It's valuable for me to have a lot of experience with multiple SUVs. I think the Forester is very close to the RAV4 in a lot of ways. I don't think that Subarus in general are quite as reliable as Toyotas, which is a big negative. I think they're still really good cars. A lot of people really like their Subarus, but I think Toyota and Honda are a little bit above basically everything else, and that includes Subarus. And so it would just be fun for me to learn more about having another brand of vehicle. We've had so many Toyotas that it would just be interesting to me, and hopefully maybe to you guys, if I had something different. There's also pretty good aftermarket support for Subaru Foresters. A lot of accessories and things you can do to them, kind of like I was talking about with the RAV4. It would be fun to put a lift on it and do other things to it. Another big plus of the Subaru is the all-wheel drive, which people really like in the snow especially. And since we live in and travel to snowy places, that would be nice. It'd be interesting to try that out. The Forester also has the most amount of ground clearance out of these 3 vehicles that we're going to be talking about, which I really appreciate, which means you don't necessarily have to give it a lift. I don't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head, but I will put those on the screen for the Subaru, for the RAV4, and also for the 3rd vehicle that we're gonna be looking at. I have test driven a Forester, and I really liked it. I thought it was a really fun little car. It's small, it's sporty, and I was interested in the Forester versus the Outback or the Crosstrek, primarily because of the interior height. It's nice when you're sleeping in your car to be able to sit up, and it's easier to do that in the Forester than either of those other 2 cars, although I'm not opposed to getting an Outback either. I think Outbacks are a little bit wider and a little bit longer. I think that Crosstreks are just a little bit too small. I know I've shown Crosstreks on this channel and people camping in their Crosstreks, but it just seems pretty cramped, and I have heard that from a lot of people. It's possible, it's just, I mean, if I'm buying something specifically to camp in, I should probably get something that's more comfortable to camp in. So yeah, let me know what you think about Subaru Foresters. I know that some earlier ones had some head gasket issues and also excessive oil consumption issues. It seems like that was fixed in the years that I am considering. Some people don't like the CVT transmission that the Foresters now have. So again, let me know what you think about that if you've had personal experience with them in the years that I'm talking about. And so those 2, the RAV4 and the Forester, are the ones that I'm most seriously considering. The 3rd one I'm also considering, but I think it's a little bit lower down the list. It's not neck and neck with the other 2, but it's arguably the most interesting and the most fun of the 3. So you might think that I'm considering a Honda CR-V, but I'm not, and I'll talk more about why I'm not in a minute. But I'm actually thinking of a Honda Element. Those stopped being produced, I think, in like 2011, give or take a year or 2. I don't remember off the top of my head. They're weird cars. They're cool little cars. I've never owned a Honda before, except I've had 2 Honda motorcycles, but I've never owned a Honda car before, so that is interesting. I like that it's just kind of a weird boxy shape. Obviously, because they haven't been made for a while, it's hard to find one with 50, 60, 70,000 miles on it. They are out there, but then they get, they get up there as far as price goes. But I think I'd be okay spending $6,000 or $8,000 on a Honda Element that has 100,000 miles on it. I think that would be interesting because it's a Honda. I'm pretty confident that it would last a long time. Like I'm almost certain I'd be able to get at least 200,000 miles out of that engine at least. And I know, again, because it is a little bit of an older car, there will always be little things that pop up. I'm fine with fixing those. I just want like the engine and the transmission to be good as long as I take care of them. The biggest downside to me of an Element is that it doesn't have very much ground clearance. It has the lowest ground clearance of the three vehicles. Again, I'll put those numbers back up on the screen here. That could be fixed with a lift. You know, that's an option. And I know that, that some Elements had all-wheel drive, so that's probably what I would be considering. So I don't know, kind of the, like I said, the wild card pick there. I think it would be fun for various reasons. They're just kind of strange little cars, and I'd like to have experience with one. And so those are the big three, really the big two, and then a slightly less big third. Let me know what you think. Leave your comment down below. Go cast your vote in the poll that I will link to down below. So let's talk about the other options, what I'm not getting. So I talked about why I'm not getting a van, because it just doesn't really work right now, although I probably will get one in the future. I'm not interested in a truck because I don't really see too many advantages of a truck versus an SUV, especially if the goal is to sleep in the thing. I think an SUV just makes more sense, especially again, given what my brand is, SUV RVing. And so let's talk about some of the other SUVs. In my mind, the Honda CR-V is like the other big one. Really reliable, there are lots of them out there. They're not super cheap because again, like RAV4s, everyone knows that they're really reliable, so they hold their value actually pretty well. I just don't like how CR-Vs look. I think it's a very boring looking car, especially, I don't think all generations have this, but like that back window that looks like a bubble that's like kind of curved. I don't like that. I don't want that car. And so basically exclusively for that reason, because I don't like how it looks, I'm not considering a Honda CR-V. I do like the older ones, like the ones that have the spare tire on the back. I think those are pretty cool looking, but again, finding one of those that's low miles. And with that, we're looking at like the early 2000s. That's a pretty old car. There is gonna be a lot of other stuff wrong with it. Not that I'm, again, necessarily opposed to that if I get one at the right price, but I think the odds of us getting a CR-V are pretty low. I've had other people say FJ Cruiser and 4Runner to stay in the Toyota family, or a Sequoia. I've never owned any of those vehicles, but again, I want something small and fuel efficient, and those three SUVs are great, but they are not small and they are not fuel efficient. What else? Minivans. People recommended minivans like the Toyota Sienna, which does come or has come in all-wheel drive versions. They said to get that and then put a lift on it. I don't know. Cassie is really against minivans. She is not at all interested in a minivan. And they're certainly spacious inside, more spacious than any SUV, but I don't know, they don't offer that many more pros over the SUVs that I'm considering. I mean, space really is the only one. And if it's just me or just, you know, occasionally Cassie, I don't really need the space. I'd rather have something that just fits me better, and SUVs fit me better. And then what about the other brands like Mazda or Nissan or the American brands, Ford, Chevy, all of those? I just want something super reliable. And to me, that means a Japanese car. And so I'm not really interested in anything else. And to me, again, that means Toyota, Subaru, Honda. Those are the big three. I think everything else is everything else. I think Ford Broncos look really cool, but they're too expensive. And again, I don't really want an American-made car. I do like Mazda, what is it? Mazda CX-5. It's like the small SUV that they make, which is supposed to be pretty reliable. But another thing I have to consider is what are people looking for on the internet and on YouTube specifically? There are far more people looking for sleeping in your RAV4 content or sleeping in your Forester content than sleeping in your Honda CX or your Mazda CX-5 content. But I have actually test driven a CX-5. I actually really liked it. We drove one when we were looking at Cassie's car before we bought her Highlander. And then as far as Nissan, I don't even know what Nissan makes anymore. Do they still make Pathfinders? I don't know, but I was not really interested in a Nissan. I see no reason to get that when I could get something that's more popular and has better reliability. Let's go ahead and answer some questions that you guys had on the last video. First of all, what happened to the deer? It didn't end well, the deer died. Second, why don't you just fix the RAV4? Because I'm not a mechanic, first of all, and to get it to the point where it would be drivable again would cost, I don't know how many thousands and thousands of dollars. My thought is that it's way better to use that insurance money to buy another vehicle that has way lower miles, that'll last me longer than fixing up the RAV4, which even if I get it fixed again and it's perfect, it'll have a salvage title and it'll still have 210,000 miles on it, along with some other little problems that it had. Nothing major, but I just don't think it's the best use of my money. And so I don't have the time to get it fixed. I don't think the money is best spent getting it fixed. I don't have the ability to get it fixed. And even if I did, it's just not, I mean, it just doesn't make sense to do it in really any regard. And then a lot of people were very concerned about the roof box that was on the RAV4. That gray roof box that I've had on there for years and years, and it's served me well, but it was kind of falling apart even before that trip. I actually wanted to buy a new one even before that trip. I tried to buy a new one, but I couldn't find one that I liked. And so I thought, well, I'll do it, you know, in a month or two. It had cracks in it. It was kind of sagging because it wasn't supported very well at the back end. It was just not in good shape. And so it didn't make sense to try to salvage it. And even if I'd wanted to, there was no practical way, I don't think, of getting it back home. I think I paid $150 for it like 9 years ago. And so I've definitely gotten my money's worth out of it. I did take the solar panel off of it and I put that in the rented RAV4 and I did bring that home. So that's in my possession. The box itself, not worth saving. And then I got a lot of people saying, why didn't you slow down? If there's one deer, there are always two. This happened like that. You know, maybe you could have made a better call. I obviously wish I had slowed down and hopefully missed the deer, but I didn't. And so, you know, I'm okay with it. And I think that'll wrap it up. We've hiked 1.36 miles on this really nice little trail. We have the creek right there, and the trail continues on for several miles, but I think I'm gonna turn around here now. Again, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know what your suggestions are. Let me know if there's anything I left out or that I should have considered that I'm not. And I'll see you in the next one. And by the way, in the next one, so the next series of videos will be ones that I've already filmed. So like I said, after I hit the deer, I eventually made it back home and I grabbed the Land Cruiser and I went back out again and I filmed another like 6 or 7 videos on that trip. Those will come after this. And so if I mention in those videos something like not knowing what the fate of the RAV4 was, because at the time I didn't know if it would be totaled or not. I thought it probably would be, but I hadn't gotten that confirmation from my insurance yet. If I do talk about that, that's why, because I'm filming this after I filmed those, even though this is coming first. Anyway, you get it. Thanks guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Be sure to check out Adventure Know-How, my new site, where you can gain access to a map of all of my free campsites, plus monthly bonus videos that you won't find anywhere else. Learn more at adventureknowhow.com. And for links to everything else SUV RVing related, visit suvrving.com. Links to these sites and more will be in the video description.